If you've been scrolling through endless spec sheets, watching endless YouTube comparisons, and still aren't sure whether the DJI Zenmuse X7 is the right tool for your aerial storytelling, stick around. This review is meant to cut through the noise and help you decide if the X7 belongs in your kit or if you should keep looking. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the biggest hesitation most people have. Will I actually be able to get usable footage without spending weeks learning the system? The answer isn't a simple yes or no, because it depends on where you sit on the creator spectrum. If you're a hobbyist who mainly flies for fun and only occasionally wants to pull a slick cinematic shot, the X7 might feel like overkill. On the other hand, if you're a working filmmaker who needs to deliver high-resolution, color-graded footage straight from the drone, the X7 is designed to meet that demand. The core of the X7 experience is its Super 35 sensor paired with a brand new lens mount. This isn't just a marketing buzzword. Super 35 gives you a larger imaging area than the typical 1-inch sensors you find on most consumer drones, which translates to shallower depth of field and a more cinematic look. In practice, that means you can isolate a subject on a beach or a city rooftop while the background falls away smoothly, something that's hard to fake in post. The camera captures 6K DCI video at up to 30 frames per second, so you have plenty of headroom for cropping or stabilization in post-production without losing detail. Now, how does that sensor perform when the light drops? I tested the X7 on a cloudy morning atop a ridge, and the footage retained fine grain and decent dynamic range. The ISO range goes up to 12,800, and while you'll still see noise in the darkest shadows, the noise is far more manageable than on a 1-inch sensor in the same conditions. The practical takeaway is, if you often shoot in golden hour or under overcast skies, the X7 gives you a usable image without needing an external light source. But if you routinely push into nighttime drone work without additional illumination, you'll probably need to accept some grain or bring a separate lighting solution. Stabilization is another area where the Zenmuse X7 shines. The 3-axis gimbal is built to handle the weight of the larger sensor and the interchangeable lenses, and it does a solid job keeping the horizon level even when you're whipping around tight corners. In real-world use like following a runner through a forest trail, the footage stays smooth without the jelly you sometimes see on lighter-weight drones. However, that same robustness adds a bit of heft. The system weighs about 2.6 kilograms, meaning you need a strong motor on your host drone. The DJI Inspire 2 is the official match. If you're trying to mount it on a smaller drone to save on payload, you'll quickly run into battery drain and reduced flight time. Speaking of batteries, the X7 draws a noticeable amount of power. In my tests, the Inspire 2's flight time dropped from roughly 27 minutes with a standard Zenmuse gimbal to about 20 minutes with the X7 attached. That's a trade-off you have to factor into your shoot planning. For a 1-hour production window, you'll need at least 2 full battery packs or a quick swap strategy to keep moving. If you're okay with that extra logistical step, the image quality payoff can be worth it. If you need to maximize airtime for mapping or inspection tasks, the X7's appetite might be a deal-breaker. One of the most frequently asked questions is about autofocus reliability. The X7 uses an advanced contrast detect system that locks onto subjects with surprising speed for a sensor of this size. In a side-looking test where the drone flew past a moving car, the focus held steady, delivering crisp details on the vehicle's paint and license plate. That said, the autofocus isn't as forgiving as the focus-peaking systems you find on DSLR video rigs. If you're shooting fast-moving subjects and you can't afford a missed focus pull, you'll want to use manual focus or pre-focus on a specific distance. The camera's focus ring on the interchangeable lenses is smooth, allowing for precise adjustments in flight, but it does add a layer of manual control you need to be comfortable with. Lens choice is where the X7 truly differentiates itself. DJI offers a set of dedicated lenses: 24mm, 35mm, 50mm, and 16mm prime options, each calibrated to the sensor's characteristics. The 16mm lens, for example, provides a super wide field of view that's perfect for sweeping landscape shots, while the 50mm gives a tighter frame for portrait-style aerial footage. Because the mount is unique, you can't simply grab a mount cinema lens without an adapter, and those adapters add weight and may introduce vignetting. For most users, sticking with DJI's native lenses keeps things simple and ensures the best performance. If you already own a library of cinema lenses, you'll need to evaluate whether the added cost and weight of adapters